In crypto mining, from a just practical perspective, you have a piece of electronic hardware that you plug into power, and that piece of hardware then earns you cryptocurrency. Now, there is another type of hardware that works in that exact same way, but instead of pulling hundreds, if not thousands of watts of electricity like mining hardware does, these little gadgets usually pull only a few watts of power while still in many cases earning you a significant amount of crypto. Of course, I'm talking about DePin devices, which is a topic I haven't covered on my channel before, mainly because there is enough to cover about mining anyway and I don't want to spread myself too thin on the channel. But that's not to say that there isn't a lot of interesting stuff going on with DePin. So in this video, I'm going to start by giving you a very brief overview of what DePin actually is, and then I'm going to interview someone who has a lot of experience with DePin about 3 different types of devices he's used and seen various levels of success with. So that's what's coming up in this video after this quick word from our sponsor. My personal strategy in mining is to have a diverse farm. A big part of that is having ASIC miners for multiple different algorithms. Not only does that mean less risk as you're not putting all eggs in one basket, but you're also exposed to the profitability of multiple different coins, which could be very advantageous. And with that in mind, there are currently 2 miners in particular that I'm interested in. The first one is the new at-home Dogecoin miner from 𝗧-𝗦𝗛𝗧𝗧. Dogecoin miners are always on my radar as they let you merge mine multiple coins at the same time without using extra power, with more mining rewards coming from new coins being added regularly. And the 𝗧-𝗧miner actually offers top-tier mining efficiency while still being home mining friendly, as it's silent and runs on both 120 and 240 volt power. And the same goes for the second miner I'm currently interested in, which is, well, either the 𝗕𝗓𝗏 Lite or the 𝗕𝗓𝗧 from iServer. They both also have top-tier mining efficiency while still being home mining friendly, but they mine 𝗕𝗓𝗏, which is a smaller coin with a smaller network. And I love getting smaller miners for coins like that in order to diversify my farm, especially when they offer excellent performance like these ones do. But where can you get these miners from? Well, why not check out this video's sponsor, Coin Mining Central, which is an online store for ASIC miners with an over 6-year track record of overwhelmingly positive customer reviews. They have all the latest and most profitable miners, from silent home miners to full-size ASICs. They can even provide immersion cooling systems and offer great bulk pricing on ASICs. On top of that, if you're in the US, you can also choose to order directly from their US stock of miners to get even faster delivery and to avoid customs and import charges. Based in the UK, Coin Mining Central prioritizes great customer support, strict personal detail protection, and free worldwide shipping on all miners with no additional payment fees at checkout. You can also utilize their loyalty and referral programs to save on your next purchase. Plus, use my link down in the video description and code 𝗧 at checkout for a roughly $130 discount on every miner in your order priced over £1,000. Like the 𝗧-𝗦𝗛𝗏 miner that I mentioned earlier. Or if you want to get a discount on the iServer 𝗕𝗓𝗏 Lite or 𝗕𝗓𝗧, you can use the code 𝗧-𝗦𝗏𝗧 instead. So if you've been wanting to get some ASIC miners, check out that link below together with the code to save on your purchase. Alright, so we already covered that on a just practical level, DePin devices and mining hardware work very similarly. They are pieces of electronic equipment that you plug into power, which then earns you cryptocurrency. How they differ comes down to what the devices actually do on a technical level. Mining equipment, by definition, solves specific mathematical algorithms to write blocks on the blockchain for whatever coin it is that you are mining. And by the way, if you want to learn more about how crypto mining works on a technical level, I do have a video that goes into detail about just that, explained in a way that's easy to understand even if you're new to the whole crypto thing. Now, DePin devices, on the other hand, do something different. The actual word DePin is an acronym for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks, and the devices actually collect some sort of data to build up a, well, infrastructure network. And the people running these devices, people like you and I, are paid for doing so with what is usually a native coin attached to the blockchain for that infrastructure network. Now, a lot of us cringe when we hear the words collecting data because, we associate it with stuff like tech companies monitoring our browsing habits to show us targeted advertising or malware collecting our bank details. But DePin devices are usually very different in what type of data it is that they collect. For example, a DePin device might just be a small weather sensor that collects data about the temperature, humidity, wind speeds, and so on. And this data is then collected from all the people running these small devices and put together to form a, you guessed it, decentralized physical infrastructure network of weather data. There can be loads of advantages for something like this. For example, instead of a massive company having to go out and place weather stations all over the globe and then them owning all of that data from the stations, you can instead pay thousands of people to put small weather sensors up, and that way not only can the data be stored openly on a blockchain, you can also get way more precise data, as instead of one massive weather station per city, for example, you can have hundreds if not thousands of small ones providing much more detailed information. Of course, this is just one theoretical example of DePin in action. So let's hop on over to my interview with fellow YouTuber, the Hobbyist Miner, who has had hands-on experience with a lot of different DePin devices over the past few years, and see what he has to say. Hey guys, just really quickly, this has nothing to do with the rest of the video. I just noticed that Coin Money Central over on Twitter are giving away 5 Bitcoin solo miners completely for free to 5 different lucky winners. So yeah, just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'll link the giveaway down in the video description so that if you're interested, you can get a chance to win one of these miners. All right, now back to the video. All right, Hobbyist Miner, thank you so much for joining me here. And from what I understand, you've prepared a little bit of a introduction more specifically to 3 different types of DePin devices. And within those sort of categories, you've also got a few different examples of devices that you are going to mention. And I just want to say here to the viewer that if any of these devices seem interesting to you and you want to learn more about them, Hobbyist Miner has great sort of more in-depth videos about all of these devices on his channel that you can go check out. But Hobbyist Miner, thank you so much for joining us and talking us through the whole great world of DePin devices.
Thanks for having me, Seb. Yeah, DePin has been very buzzy more recently, especially within the home mining world. Just grasping for a different opportunity other than traditional GPU or ASIC mining. Jumping on this, kind of diving right in right away. You know, there's a few different categories that a lot of these fall under, but of course there's new DePin projects, honestly dropping every week, it feels like. So kind of the whole scene's getting redefined, but one area that a lot of these are within the automotive industry. More specifically, there's 2 products that I've really enjoyed over the years. The first one is 𝗕𝗓𝗧, and the second one we'll jump into as well is HiveMapper. And 𝗕𝗓𝗧 is a great product, and giving a quick summary of this for your listeners. It's a small little black product that you actually plug into your car. Up under the dash, you have a port called an OBD port, and you plug it in there, you connect it to your phone, and what will happen is it's great. So there's an app with it and everything. It's very simple, and you can set it up in 5 minutes. And what it does is it gathers data about your vehicle, and nothing personal or anything like that, just gathering day-to-day data that would be valuable to car manufacturers or valuable to insurance companies. And you're not registering any specific information, so no one knows that it's you or anything like that. But the nice thing is that you set this and forget it. And honestly, there are sometimes I go months with forgetting it's in there. It runs off of the car, does everything it needs to, and then you're actually rewarded in the 𝗕𝗓𝗧 token, which is actually live currently right now and in mainnet, and has been a great moneymaker for me and a lot of other people in the scene.
Cool. And then you mentioned HiveMapper, which I am slightly familiar with, but I also know there's a bit of controversy about them not shipping out pre-sale products on time and all of that stuff. But I'm going to give you my interpretation of what the HiveMapper is, and then you can correct me. But from my perspective, it's essentially a dash cam that films your drive and then uploads that data to create sort of a alternative to Google Street View. You know, we've all been on Google Street View looking around and kind of walking around virtually through cities and whatnot. And this aims to sort of create a alternative to that, which is, not owned by Google. So how far off am I there?
No, it's great. Absolutely. Yeah, you've gotten 99%. So yeah,
All right.
HiveMapper is fantastic. It has a great kind of real world use case. Just like you said, Google Street View, great way to mention it. But as we all know, it's super outdated, right? And it takes a car, like a Google car, to drive around and these crazy looking things, super expensive. And so I like what they've done, where they've gone ahead and said, okay, you're going to be on the road. Let's go ahead and take pictures of your journey and then upload them with location service and such. And I actually started this out, man, maybe 2 years ago on their original HiveMapper unit. And it was a great proof of concept, had a lot of challenges, wasn't as user-friendly as what I would have expected. And I decided to get out of it because of that. It wasn't because of the project or anything like that. Now they've jumped ahead. They made boatloads of improvements. They've launched a brand new unit called the B. And most people I've talked to are very happy with it, which is great. There's a new team that is managing it and behind the project, which doesn't seem to be as community oriented from what I've heard, but I've also taken a step back from it. But just a great example of just another method that you can earn crypto from your vehicle.
And then moving on from there, what's the second sort of category of DePin devices that you've prepared for us?
Yeah, so you had mentioned at the top of this weather stations, and weather stations have really become more and more popular. I think one, because of the ease of use, but also two, because of the demand for the data. And I get it. You're like, what do you mean? Like, I got the weather channel, I have a weather app. Like, why would anyone need weather data? Well, most of that data is more at a higher scale, more at that 50,000 foot level. Whereas now in today's world, you know, more precise location-based data is super important. And actually utilizing a decentralized network. So thousands and thousands of these weather stations, you know, all over the world is something that's becoming more popular. So the primary purpose of these is a weather station. It's great. It's great to have it in place. A lot of these come with a little screen that you can put somewhere like 𝗦𝗧𝗦𝗔 or an app like 𝗕𝗜𝗓𝗔 or 𝗧𝗪𝗔, where you can load it up and see true data. You want to know how much rainfall you've gotten at your house, you can see it right in the app. And a lot of that data that it's gathering, you know, data is kind of the new oil of the current century. And so that data is called ESG data, and it's being utilized by governments to, you know, put in place regulations or climate regulations, or we see it with insurance companies when it comes down to, you know, when they're quoting things like floodplains and stuff like that. They need that accurate data, and all the data that your weather stations are gathering are going into a database, and that's really what that's being pulled out of. And then these companies like 𝗦𝗧𝗦𝗢, like 𝗕𝗜𝗓𝗧𝗦, like 𝗧𝗪𝗧, they're being paid for that data. As I said, data is becoming the new oil. And then a byproduct of running your weather station is, you earn crypto as well. So there's a few of these that are in mainnet. 𝗕𝗜𝗓𝗧𝗦 is in testnet, and I love getting into these projects in testnet just to have an opportunity to get ahead of the curve, which is really tough in today's world.
I think something that before we get on to the third and last category here, something that speaks to me as like a crypto guy with the whole DePin thing is that, like, it's taking these sort of infrastructures that previously have been, you know, run perhaps privately by big corporations, and they are kind of putting that back into the hands of the everyday people like you and I, where, you know, instead of there being this massive sort of weather data company putting up weather stations and owning all of the weather data, now instead that data can be provided by people like you and I, and also, you know, put unaltered onto a blockchain where it can also be viewed by anyone without interference from big companies. So obviously, it's decentralization of data and infrastructure speaks to me as a, you know, crypto guy, as I said, but it also is another avenue of earning a bit of crypto, which is cool for those people who do find that to be of interest.
A lot of people are drawn to DePin right now in the current state of things because there's high electric cost. GPU mining really isn't as feasible, profitable right now in the current state. It hasn't been for several years, and ASIC mining is expensive and high electric costs. So the nice thing about DePin is you're close to zero on your watt consumption. I say close to about under 100 watts. Some of these projects use 10, some use 20 watts. The car ones run right off your car battery, don't drain it. So that kind of takes a huge operating cost away from people. And that's why a lot of people are interested in DePin right now, is just the fact of where that power consumption comes in. But jumping into that third one there, kind of is really a lot of the units have popped up more antenna units. These are antenna radio-based DePin projects. These ones I would say are a little bit more involved when it comes down to the install process. But there's a few that really come to mind for me that I've been more involved with more recently. One of them is 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗛𝗓. Another one is 𝗦𝗡𝗜𝗏𝗡. And then finally, the bigger one in the room, 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡𝗏 that comes to mind as well. And 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡 is a great technology that I think a lot of us can look at and go, oh, I see a real world use case for this. 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡 is utilizes an RTK network. It kind of creates this massive RTK network worldwide. There's thousands of 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡 antennas that are put in place, and you might be like, okay, great, another network. However, this network is important because what it does is, think of self-driving cars or self-driving lawnmowers. I always like to give the lawnmower analogy where, you know, this is becoming more and more of a reality. So with your lawnmower running, do you want it, you know, let's say it uses GPS. Man, good luck getting that thing to stay within the lines in your yard or not run over your flower bed, versus utilizing a technology called GNSS and running on that RTK network. It has precision accuracy up to a centimeter. So that's where it's really valuable. Like, think of a self-driving car, accuracy is massively important. Well, same thing with a lawnmower, staying within the lines, staying outside of your flower beds and such. So you're building out this massive network with running one of these units at your house. I run two of them. I just installed one the other week. Takes a little bit to install, a little bit more hands-on, but works out great. But a second one there is 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗡𝗏. This one has become more popular. You might have seen more and more YouTube videos dropped on this. This is another antenna radio-based project that tracks airplanes and aircraft and helicopters and everything, and creates a massive, once again, database of where these airplanes are and aircraft at all times. Well, who wants this info? Well, airlines want this info, and you know, it's pretty much taking those massive radio or antenna towers that we see at airports, and pretty much, just like Seb said at the top of this, is now decentralizing that need for that. And now, you know, it's allowing us to run a mini one of those at home. And then finally, Helium, another radio antenna based project, been around for several years, but has now really been remapped to Helium 5G, and originally was partnered with T-Mobile to be an offload for that cell phone network, has now just recently additionally partnered this past week with AT&T. So it's just an offloading mechanic, more decentralized cell phone towers to be utilized by cell phones to handle the data. So it's a great industry to be a part of, and just more and more real world use cases.
Sorry, I used the first one that you mentioned there, 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡𝗏. I
Yep.
just, my head is spinning a little bit on that one. So just let me see if I understood it correctly. It's essentially you're helping to build up a positioning network that
Correct.
would kind of be an alternative to GPS. So with GPS, you know, you have a device like your phone, which sends a signal up into this, you know, space, a satellite, and with the help of a big mesh of satellites, you get an approximate position of your device. And so with 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡 instead, you can have whatever device, but that device would then, you know, find its position using the 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗡 antennas that people like you have set up all around the place to create this positioning network. Am I close? Is that
you hit it spot on, Seb? Hit it spot on. Yes,
okay.
That's entirely accurate.
Okay, so with that, you're not. It's not the device trying to find its position that is the DePin device. Rather, it's the antenna creating the network for the positioning network, which is what your DePin device is.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. You're providing a lot of these go under, you know, when you think of it, instead, you know, we traditionally, our world is like proof of work, right? And we've also heard proof of stake. This is very much like proof of, some people say it or call it quasi proof of service or proof of participation. you're offering that antenna to boost that network. So you're kind of helping to provide a service, and then you're rewarded in that cryptocurrency.
Cool. Hobbyist Miner, thank you so much for introducing us to the vast world of DePin devices. As I mentioned earlier, you have way more in-depth videos on all of these devices on your channel, which I will of course link down in the video description. So for you, the viewer, if any of these sounded interesting and you want to learn more, go check out Hobbyist's channel to learn more, I guess. Again, Hobbyist Miner, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Seb.